Welcome to the Unwashedasses, episode 85, recorded for Friday, February, what's today, 24th, so 23rd, 22nd, the 22nd, 2019. Yeah, if you can't tell, we're behind a couple days, and I tried to get one up on Friday, but it was one of those things where everything sounds dumb, and nothing came out right. I actually deleted two recordings. I could have smashed the two 7-minute recordings together. It was like, you know what, this is just dumb and everything's awful. And maybe it was because I was being a cranky toddler. Like, I needed to eat some lunch and I took a nap. And after I woke up, I'm like, I feel better, but everything sounds dumb. So we even tried to do a thing of, let's go to Google News and we'll pick a story, but my Google News feed is just so messed up. Google doesn't know what I'm interested in at this point. It's like, this celebrity is married to this person and their marriage might be on the arse. Like, I don't give a shit. Why are you feeding me this, Google? And maybe it's a thing of, I dislike too much in the news feed and I'm not upvoting enough of the other content to make it worth my while. But, I had a good run in October where it's like, oh, here's some things about space and here's some things about music, and I was educating myself. I felt smarter, and now it's just a dumpster fire of bitching and endless spewing of hate, kind of like what Reddit is right now, and I'm just tired of it. Tired of these people and their problems. It's like, I wish I could do the vampire thing of, all right, I'm going to go to sleep for the next, 200 years and then wake back up and see what we've got going on. But no, just bad. Like the weather today. I feel like I need to open every show with the weather, because it's been such a fucking train wreck here. So today's Sunday and the winds are gusting upwards of 50 miles an hour, and we had a really bad lightning storm roll through last night. So we got a lot of rain that then froze over. You combine it with winds, and again, the transit is just the biggest pile of garbage when it comes to winter driving, especially with the ladder racks on top. They allow the wind to catch it in a way that we get just enough lift where that thing, even pulling out of my driveway this morning, it was just fishtailing, and I was doing 5 miles an hour. Just bad. So the half-hour ride into work this morning was fraught with peril, and people kept speeding by. It's like, I'm doing 45 on the interstate here. What are you doing? You're just begging to get into an accident, but oh well. So here I am sitting at work recording a show and listening to the wind howl in rage outside. And I mean, it's okay. They've closed quota. I only have one job. It looks easy enough. But yeah, definitely don't want to be outside working today because it's just that bad. And it feels like we've had a lot of that lately, and that's kind of the part of the big problem is, I think that's definitely playing into why I've been in such a fucked up mood, is just craving good weather. Be able to open up the windows, let some fresh air in, and not look at snow and ice. And don't get me wrong, I like snow and ice, but I like more of a mild winter versus a harsh winter where you have the big fat fluffy flakes that are falling down. You can walk around and enjoy it. It's not sheets of ice everywhere, and you got your scarf on and you're drinking your hot cocoa, but it's not been that winter. So yeah. But no, Rachel and I started a new project, which is what I wanted to talk about. Been listening to Current Geek, and lately they've been doing their top 100 movies of all time. So Tom Merritt, and I guess Scott Johnson too, yeah. Although I think Tom more so than Scott, compiled a list of the 100 best critically acclaimed movies of all time, and pulling from many different lists. So They've been doing it for months and months and months now. They'll review or kind of share their feelings on a movie a month. I'm like, you know what? I've got my list of movies that I like, but these are, again, critically acclaimed movies that are supposed to, hold up to the test of time. And I've seen some of them, but not all of them. So, things like The Godfather, Psycho, I think Silence of the Lambs is on there. They just did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and things like that. Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz. So we figured out, what, let's try and do one a week, and it will build up our movie repertoire. At least we can then talk a bit more intelligently in a conversation about movies. Like, oh well, I liked this, but it's just pulling from what they did in Casablanca. But also too, it makes you, I think it gives you better perspective and allows you to recognize things, and it should enhance the movie going experience going this forward. So last night we started with Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. And this was one that had circulated in my high school. For whatever reason, it caught on like wildfire. Everybody was talking about how much they loved it, but I never got around to seeing it. So finally getting around to it, I don't understand why folks in my high school loved it as much as they did. It didn't make sense to me. Someone's banging on something. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's super distracting. So Dr. Strangelove is the story of what happens when a man fairly high up in the military orders a nuclear strike against Russia to proactively start World War III, and the idea that the other heads in the government won't be able to stop the attack, so all they can do is commit to it, and by committing to it they can take out the Russians and preserve the American way. But he is batshit insane, and it's kind of a dry humor take on a terrifying topic. It came out in 1964, directed by God damn it, I had it. Shining, A Clockwork Orange. Oh, what the fuck is his name? Alright, Google. Dr. Strange Love director. This is just lovely podcasting. Stanley Kubrick. There we go. So I had already seen, of course, Shining and A Clockwork Orange, and I liked him. He has a reputation for being a perfectionist, and while I can respect him as a competent director, there's nothing about his work that, at least to me, because maybe I've just not seen enough of it in comparison to others, or I don't pay enough attention to how directors frame things up and tell their story, that it's like, oh, he's very obviously a competent director and is very good at what he does, but there's nothing that really stands out or makes it special, or maybe I'm looking for a signature that's not there, like Zack Snyder and Lens Flare, or Christopher Nolan and Tom Hardy. So again, yeah, released in 1964. The story follows, and I'm not going to remember any of the names despite seeing it last night, a general who has command over a squadron of bombers that are constantly circling targets in Russia. So they're just outside Russian airspace, they're outside their radar, but they're always within 2 hours of striking designated targets. And this was the height of the Cold War. He then decides to be proactive and orders a strike using Plan R. And Plan R is going off the assumption that Russia has invaded America mostly through stealth and subterfuge and has taken out the head of the government. And so a lesser ranking official like this general can order this strike to, take out Russia and hopefully restore America. But it gives these bombers access to drop nukes on 2 targets, primary and secondary. He then puts his base on lockdown and orders his troops, shoot anybody that comes to stop us. Don't let anybody in that you don't personally know and can vouch for. So this sets up the plot point of, well, when the government finally does get wind and the president orders another division to go capture this general to get the stop code to, return the bombers, it's Americans fighting Americans for reasons that they aren't entirely aware of. And that's where I really enjoyed the movie, was not necessarily the subterfuge, but this display of incompetence and bureaucracy and one hand doing something while the other's not aware of it. And it really reminded me of how corporations work and my general disdain for them, because it's all about policies that people agree to without actually knowing what's in them, like the president signing off on Plan R, and just the constant infighting with a company when we should all be, kind of on the same side and working towards the same thing. So the scenes are broken up into 3 main areas, where we have the general and his foreign liaison, who's on like a exchange program, who was just an absolutely fantastic actor. I loved the man playing the British colonel. Or was he a lieutenant? I don't remember. But wonderful performance out of him. And then we have the war room with the president and his top generals and the Russian ambassador. And then we have one of the bombers, led by Slim Pickens as the pilot, and who is it? Darth Vader's voice. Now that I need to think of this stuff, my mind's blanking. Working bomb controls. And so it's a lovely revolving story where we have 3 subplots all working together in tandem, and one will set up the next. Like, okay, well, we have to order the troops go take this base, and then we go cut to the next scene of the troops going to take the base. Or why can't we order the bombers to turn back? Well, they've turned off radio communications, which was set up by a scene previously where they're disabling radio communications. And the story is told in such a nice, effective way where I'm not really left wondering about something. It's all very clean cut and organized, and it's told in a way where I'm satisfied. On top of that, the cinematography is very well done, and I think that's what helps the movie hold up when other movies released in the 50s and 60s don't necessarily do, because Kubrick is using camera shots and techniques that are still prevalent today, so it's easy enough to get into, and it's not all like static. We've set up the camera here, it's recording from this angle only, where we have zoom in, zoom out, we have pans and the camera following characters in action scenes, and it works extremely well. The only thing that was really jarring was were the scenes of the plane actually flying over Russia, where it was clearly a prop plane, and we had background shots being played in the background, but it was going far too fast and didn't line up with the movements of the plane, and was really jarring and disorienting, and really took me out of the movie. But I didn't understand the humor aspect of the movie. I should say the reviews, until it progressed a bit, where the movie itself is very straight-laced and presents itself quite seriously in the first half, but as we realize the horror of the situation and the utter hopelessness of it all, that's when the humor starts to slip out. And I think it's a not necessarily a commentary, but a natural progression into not necessarily insanity, but well, we're all kind of fucked. We might as well have fun with it. And as people start to become unhinged, they start behaving peculiar fashions. Like the general who's reporting directly to the president is just constantly, like every scene or shot with him, he's unwrapping a new piece of gum and chomping on it. And it works well because, again, it's a dry humor. It's not over the top. It's not slapstick, except for the titular character of Dr. Strangelove. Strangelove is a former German scientist who was brought over after World War II, as many were. And he initially offers, it's a very short, brief scene where he's introduced as he offers his opinion and thoughts and theories on what is going to happen or what they can do to mitigate these circumstances. And after he came up and then essentially they did nothing with the character, I'm like, why did they name this movie after him? He was such a minor role in it. Sure, he's peculiar and unique and he gobbles up the scenery while he's on the movie, but it didn't make sense why he would have such importance until he rolls back, literally because he's in a wheelchair, rolls back out later. And this is when we get more of a slapstick vibe from him, where he's literally fighting his hand from doing, the Nazi salute, and he constantly says Mein Führer instead of Mr. President, or he starts goose stepping when, he's like, I can walk, Mein Führer. And it just didn't make sense, and it was totally out of place. And for a movie that's normally reserved and straight-laced with tones of comedic underpinnings, he didn't fit. And again, I still don't understand why the movie was named after him, aside from just being an attention-grabbing title. I think it was a film that didn't benefit from him. He didn't really add anything to it. It could have been fulfilled by a different kind of character, a more straight-laced one, and he could have been taken out entirely. But essentially, I took away from it as a movie about the futility of these circumstances, where if a nuclear war is declared, essentially, or even just commentary on general, where people don't really care about one another, they care about themselves. And so the plan at the end of the movie is, before the bombs start dropping, is, all right, well, we can live in tunnels for the next 100 years while the fallout dies off, and we'll need 10 women per men, and obviously we want all the top-ranking military officials to be in charge here. And it's just like, all right, they're setting themselves up for success and survival while they're literally going to let the world burn, and they don't care about other people, despite, obviously campaigning on platforms that they did to get where they were. So it's not an optimistic view, but I feel a realistic one, and it resonated, I guess. I guess looking back on it, again, I saw it last night, it's a good movie, it's a competent movie, it's smart, it's witty, and very strong, and I can see why it would be on these lists, because it stands on its own. But at the same time, I don't know that it's a movie I'd really care to watch again. I don't know that I would glean anything new or gain anything by watching it another time. There's not like a missing story thread, I feel, that just kind of went over my head. It was all very neatly wrapped up, and a good movie, enjoyable, but again, not something I think I would add in my collection. And I think that's going to be kind of a common theme throughout as we watch these movies, is while they is recognizing something I like versus something I can respect. They might not be my favorite movies, I might not particularly enjoy them, but I can recognize them for their craft and what makes them good. And again, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to the most with this, is broadening my horizons and learning to be a better, I guess, movie watcher, and making myself more intelligent about this subject matter that I've enjoyed, but not necessarily invested the time in at being better at, I guess. So it's going to be an educational experience, and a good excuse to cozy up on the couch every week and watch a new film. So that's going to wrap it up. We should have something on Monday, and I think we're just going to talk about Anthem because that got released. But if you want to talk about anything or have any comments, questions, concerns, criticisms, complaints, critiques, or otherwise comments, drop an email over at theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Again, theunwashedasses@gmail.com. And of course, this year, all we're asking for is tell a friend about the show. Let them know they can get it wherever they get other podcasts. You can search for The Unwashed Asses or TUA. And of course, if you want to take it above and beyond, just pitch in $1 or $2 over at patreon.com/0and09, ZEROAND09. But until next time, zingy outro.